So we should be live. I don't see it on the thing yet. There we are. Okay, now I see it. Well, welcome to Bottled Water, the podcast. We're going to talk about UFOs. We're going to talk about pretty much the overall phenomenon and what's going on in the world and how it relates to society and just various aspects of that. And we're going to talk to whoever we can to talk about these things. And it's going to be very interesting. And I really hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to hit the little thumbs up button, share this if you like it. And we're going to bring on our first guest ever, Brad, aka Sonic Gravity. What is up?
Hey Tony, how's it going?
Not bad at all. It's a great Saturday.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you were talking about yesterday, when you were talking about the kind of the direction that your podcast was going. I thought it was really interesting that you were thinking about not just the UFO phenomenon, but how it affects people in society.
Oh yeah. I think it's something that we don't really talk about as much is what is society's reaction to this? How's the average person going to view this and then, react to being told that, hey, you're not alone in the universe.
Yeah. I was wondering if you were going to, take like streets and stuff and like, just like to the grocery store and like random people, like, hey, what do you think about this or that? You get some pretty raw like answers.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If I just went out into the middle of the next town and stood outside the grocery store and was like, so what do you think about aliens and UFOs and how the government has a UFO office that they're setting up, a new one they're setting up? People would be like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? Get away from me.
Yeah. Or Comic-Con, people who are a little more engaged and like, you probably get all kinds of nutty responses.
Oh, I'm sure there'd be a lot of interesting ones there. I'm just thinking of what people would think if the government said, yeah, there's life out there and they've been visiting us. I think that opens up a lot of questions as to the motive of why they're coming here and watching us. Or is it like a zoo theory where Earth is like a zoo? And they just come and look at all the primitive people running around and burning fossil fuels to drive their cars and stuff.
Yeah. When I was a kid, and trying to be weird or anything, but when I was a kid, I had a magnifying glass, and I'd go around and I would like zorch ants, like just burn them. And I don't know, tales of a psychopathic childhood, but we'll get some of that. You know what I mean? I hate to be like a fear monger, but just an alien that shows up and just goes, you know what? I'm going to see what I can do. You know what I mean?
Well,
there's a lot of different ways people could go with that.
That could be, cattle mutilations.
Yeah. Well, one thing that those cattle related is that, like in the quantum echo hypothesis, I talk about that when we spin up our vag, we throw our Higgs bosons and whatever matter that goes with it into the past. The only way for the law of conservation of mass energy to be preserved across those brains of time, the brain of time that we're in, and then the brain of time that we cast our mass into, is if that positive mass is enshrouded in a field of negative density, or energy. It has to be net zero when it lands, wherever your echo lands, it has to be. And so sometimes I wonder if, when our echoes go into the past, when they're wrapped in that intense gravity, that sort of counterbalances their mass energy in that instance of time. I'm wondering if cows don't just kind of like wander up to it because it's a big bright light and then just get wrecked in that gravity. You know what I mean? And so the possibility.
That's a very good possibility, because I've been around cows for a little bit now, and if you put a flashlight out, they're all going to come walking up to the flashlight.
I
There's a reason there's a term called dumb cow eyes. You ever heard of
like
that?
these.
Big dumb cow eyes?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Heard that. Yeah. That's really interesting. I did not know that about cows.
Oh yeah, they'll just walk up to anything.
About the
You're breaking up a little bit.
What do you think about the militarization, and like the fact that staying in the department, rather sort of a cooperative with energy and all that kind of Department of Energy and NASA? What do you make of that?
Well, I think we know from scientists at NASA that I've talked that NASA is so compartmentalized between every like space center, like from Kennedy to whatever one you want to think of. They don't talk to each other, so they don't know like if one space center is working on a lander, the other one's working on a lander. They're not talking to each other about it. And they find that they're wasting a lot of money and time and energy by one group fixing a problem, but finding out that the other group fixed it 6 months ago, and they just wasted 6 months and all of that budget trying to fix something that's already been fixed. So that's a big problem. I mean, they already don't talk to each other within their own little locations, and now you throw everything else in there. I mean, the CIA lied about the what was it, the U-2 or the SR-71 that NASA had that they were flying, and they didn't even know that they were spying for the CIA.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were using it. NASA was supposedly using it for like atmospheric readings, but the CIA kind of stuck a camera on there, just like the normal SR-71, and just we're like, no, guys, you go ahead and do that. We're going to show up every now and again and take some stuff off your plane, but oh yeah, absolutely, it's yours.
They just bugged it. They bugged the SR-71.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is sort of the way, for better or for worse, the way the works is the appropriates money to do a very specific thing. It's how Congress controls the government. So if you can't do it, and so everything's sort of prescribed on a yearly basis. There's a small amount of discretionary money that allows the federal agencies to flex a little bit, but like the SEC, where I work, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the view the Department of Finance does, but whenever they review different categories for different teams of lawyers and stuff that are specific to that, but it started to be like there was the role section, and then telecommunication was one, and then some other sort of commerce division was something else. But then pretty soon, certainly around 2010 or so, when the internet blew up, ordering online, then all of these previous start getting their wires all crossed as the ecosystem of commerce evolved. And so I think maybe we're gonna need a revolution where we start to examine, hey, how should we allocate our effort so that we don't do the same thing that you're talking about with 5 people working on the same problem.
Yeah, and then
that's already been solved.
That doesn't even come into the fact that you'll have, I know you know this from the Army, but we'll have that budget, and we don't want to spend it right around July, August. Nobody wants to spend any of the budget. And then it comes to the end of the fiscal year.
Are you losing me? Because it sort of lost you.
There we are. We're back.
Oh, okay. Super.
If they don't spend all of that money, then it goes away. That whatever they don't spend is taken out of their budget for the next year.
Yep. Yeah. The way the mechanics of that is that for most agencies, their appropriation is for 1 year only. And so the money is only available in that. If you don't expend and they pull it back, it's illegal to actually spend, last year's stuff. There are a few narrow exceptions, but yeah, that's kind of a problem. And
Yeah.
just like it does two things. One, if you don't that, hey, give them that much money next year, right? It's pressure. If you have some need, you want to get money for them, and so you end up there's a potential for spend on things that you might not need, so that you don't get hammered. Your budget doesn't get hammered for what you know is coming up.
Right. And I think that happens a lot. There's a lot of organizations that do that, and within the government, they do that. Like I had a $2,700 monitor as a contractor. Like we just started buying those big, like 37-inch curved monitors.
Yeah.
You can have like 10,000 Excel, blocks on it. We all had, like, almost everybody had them. They were making it so that everybody had them. But then they were like, hey guys, our budget is $500,000 less next year, so we got to factor that in. And I'm like, you guys spent $50,000 on monitors like this week.
Yeah. It's possible that it was because they're coming up to the end of the FY and there was, something felt didn't, the guys who were supposed to cut the grass, didn't cut it. And so now the 100 was like, man, we got to use this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a bummer. Just the mechanics of, I think in the abstract, it sounds like really grossly inefficient and all that kind of stuff, but really fraction of a total budget. So it's not, it's not like horrible, but
right.
It doesn't have to be horrible.
Looks like you're cutting out. You're cutting in and out your audio.
I am. All right, let me fix that. I'm really sorry. This should be a little better.
Yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Is that sometimes it jumps back to the wrong asset. So, hey, man, so what's your vision for your show?
Well,
what
my
your
vision
first lineup looking like?
Well, next week is TJ Allard, the producer of the Skinwalker Ranch show on History Channel.
Wow.
So I'll be talking to him, and then I'll figure out the third week of December, and then I'm going to give the holidays a break because nobody wants to watch UFO stuff on Christmas, which is the fourth Saturday coming in. And there's no way I'm going to have the time to do that on Christmas being out here. So we'll give the next 2 weeks a break, and then we'll be back for the second week of January. And in January, we're going to have Mick West on. So that should be interesting.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's going to be good. So what was your motivation for doing your podcast? Well, like, what really motivated you? Like, where's your energy come from?
I've always been very interested in the paranormal and UFOs, and after the Navy videos came out, it kind of like lit a fire where I was like, whoa, this is actually starting to come into the forefront now. It really changes the societal perception that anybody who is interested at all in UFOs is some weirdo that sits in their basement with watching a bunch of old documentaries and X-Files all the time. And Jazz, that's a good point. Go look at the money at the bottom of the National Defense Authorization Act and the Intelligence Authorization Act that's listed under none of your effing business.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder, like, did the Air Force really pay $75 for that screwdriver
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of wonder, like, how those books are cooked. So what
Yeah.
are your hopes for the new paradigm in terms of the congressional interest in?
I go back and forth between whether they're serious about it or they see this as a potential voting issue in the future as it starts to come out more and more. People are going to take notice and then they're going to want answers and they're going to look to the politicians and they'll be able to say, well, I voted on this 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And that's why you should keep me in office because I'm very, in tune with what's going on with this. So I think it's a little bit of that. And I think it's a little bit of their own curiosity. Some of the basement nerds got into Congress and now they want the answers that everybody else wants too.
Yeah. It's like no surprise that these Marvel movies and all that, like, because it's the group books on stuff.
Yeah. It's
so what do you think? When you think about you strike me as the kind of person who's see shit kind of okay in some concern where people are coming from and what their agendas are. What do you the major in play in the disclosure conversation? Like, yeah, like some of these other.
You're cutting in and out again. Yeah.
Is that better? No.
Yeah, there's like a weird reverb and then it mutes you when you come back and it mutes you.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just cut out there though.
What do you think the sort of pressures are? Where do you think the forces are that are acting in closure?
I don't know.
What interest do you think?
That's a really good question because it's almost like they're setting this up to be the next big subject. So we're going through what we're going through right now, and they're kind of laying this groundwork for this to be the next big topic. And I kind of think it's going to really come in around, was it 2024 when we go back to the moon and they start doing more flights out to the moon and in the International Space Station with SpaceX's Starship. So I think there's going to there's not going to be a way to hide it. If you have a commercial entity going up there and circling the moon and doing everything, you can't hide it anymore. They can't have that type of control over a commercial entity. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I heard there was $10 billion in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
I heard there was $10 billion in the budget for Jeff Bezos to get us to the moon. I haven't read that. I didn't see it, but that was something that I saw on Twitter from Bernie Sanders. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I'm fairly sure he's a truthful guy. I don't know that he would. That interesting that like we're so heavily funding these super would probably anyway.
Yeah, I really think that they have to be setting up for the next step of whatever it is that they want to do. And I don't think that they can hide it once space really becomes commercialized.
Yeah, one thing that blew me away, at least about defense spending, was that I think it was 1998. We had so many Humvees. Like, do you remember the motor pools were just like packed with Humvees, and we couldn't even maintain them. We were just like parking them in the motor pool, and we didn't even have enough like maintain them, so they're just sitting there and rotting. And I know the Army went back and said, "Hey, no more money for Humvees," but the Humvee parts were made in all 50 states.
Yeah.
And so when the NDAA came out, it was like, you will spend $800 million on Humvee parts. We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think about, I mean, we need defense. We've got to spend money on it. But
Yeah.
what do you think about the interplay of the military-industrial complex? You'd mentioned that and this what triggered it in my head was that you mentioned that this was going to be the big next thing, and now
Hmm.
that Afghanistan and Iraq is over, which one did you go, Afghanistan or Iraq?
Which one? What?
Where'd you go? Did you go to Iraq or Afghanistan?
No, I went to South Korea, Japan, and Colombia,
Oh, okay. Well,
and
yeah.
Cuba.
Well, Korea's still there, but
Yeah.
if now that Afghanistan and Iraq are gone, it's kind of like, where is the military-industrial complex next meal coming from?
Right. Where are they going to spend that $750 billion now that we're not in active engagement at a
Yeah.
major country moving the stuff that we were moving? And I mean, it might come from Russia with the Ukraine. It might come from China with Taiwan, or it just might be, hey, here's a crashed UFO. We need all this money to reverse engineer it and build our own and do all this stuff. And, they could have been holding on to that for 50 years just so they have the right time as technology is advancing as it is now to finally do something with it.
Hmm. And one thing that I was realizing with, and I call it the intellectual authoritarianism.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at, I mean, is YouTube got canned or that, like, look at
That
mainstream
day
sort
that
of.
Yeah, that day it
What
just
was that?
disappeared.
When you look at these sort of mainstream sources of, like, social media, starting to see the leash, that they kind of have
Mm-hmm.
on us. And I thought it was a really good idea to do this podcast. You are, like, you're the master of your universe. You know what I mean? Like, they can't censor that.
Right.
So that's cool. I mean, was that part of your mindset in starting
Yeah,
your
to
podcast?
just to have my way to speak about it outside of 150 characters on Twitter and get a chance to talk to some of the people that I'm messaging back and forth in a more natural way than just text on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in your mind, like, when you conceived of, like, a podcast, like, because when I started, I just started ugly. You know what I mean? I didn't know shit. I didn't know how to edit anything. You know, I just kind
Yeah.
of, and I still, like, I'm a very antisocial person. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
you get that when you have ASPD, when you're a psychopath, personality disorder, you just don't connect with people. And
Yeah.
so all my podcasts, I have 62 monologues. Like, I have never interviewed a single person ever. I
Hmm.
just start talking. You know, but what
Right.
what drives you, and how are you gonna how are you gonna decide? So,
Oh, you broke off at the end. What was it?
how yes, value are you looking people still come on, but
For for the people that I interview on the channel, a lot of it is people that I have seen on some other podcasts that I really want to talk to, that have just really piqued my interest. And then there's going to be points throughout where I'm trying to get a psychologist or a sociologist to talk about the social aspects of this, and trying to get somebody from a religious standpoint, like a pastor or a rabbi or whatever, to come on and talk about it. It's probably going to be really difficult since they have to answer to higher authorities before they can talk about something like this. I know at least the Catholic
that
Church does.
I'll cover you a pastor. My brother's one,
Oh,
so he'll
really?
do it.
Sweet.
And I think the one thing that I've noticed is that um, which was kind of astounding to me. You're universally well liked.
It's kind of amazing.
I think you could fill your docket with about what they haven't, like, you know, I think that's one advantage that you.
Well, one of my number one goals is to get Jeremy Corbell on, because I really don't think I think he thinks my Twitter is an actual bot, because it's at botwater. So if
Really
convincing him that I'm a real person is a big hurdle. And then
you mean those pistols and whiskey and shooting, just he thinks, oh, it's a robot.
It's got to be a bot.
Doing that. Yeah, it's got to be a bot. Nobody does that.
Nobody does that.
So you're gonna bring military folks in?
Yes, for the ones that can talk about it.
Yeah, like I know a guy who's like the head strategist sort of at the Pentagon, and man, and since I started podcasting about like my mental illness and all that kind of stuff, and he doesn't even fucking return my calls. So yeah, I mean, it fucking happens, no big deal. But like most of the people don't, at least in my circles, right? They're all office and everything. Well, a few NCOs, but most of them just don't fucking want to get any on them. Like
no, they don't. Not especially if they're still in. They can't. I mean, that's career suicide to go onto a freaking podcast and talk about UFOs. The next morning, you're standing in front of your first sergeant or your BC or your brigade commander, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Anything you're like on the on CNN or anything like where it's
well, when they go on CNN, they're kind of given a very good outline of don't talk about this, don't talk about, especially if they're still in what they can and cannot talk about, and then once they get out, then talk about whatever they want.
Yeah, but even then, right? You get all the guys drop books and it's,
yeah, the national, what do they call that? Your NDA.
Yeah, non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah, which a lot of people don't know. Like everybody pretty much signs one in the military. When I in process to my first duty station, the first thing they did was hand me a non-disclosure agreement and say, "Sign this." Oh, what is it? Don't worry, sign it.
What was your MOS?
My first one was 88 Mike, and my second one was 88 Lima.
Yeah, I was 21. I was engineer. But combat engineer and then a JAG after that.
Okay.
So
you were engineering officer first, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then after that, it was interesting because you mental process of like the commanders who have sort of the visibility on everything. Because like in the Army, you kind of like back in your foxhole, and so you don't get to see like the whole big picture all the time.
Right.
But being like special staff, like being able to kind of see all pieces and did a little sand, but not that. But
yeah, when most people when they first come in, especially enlisted, I can talk for the enlisted side, is when you come in, you really just see your first sergeant in the morning, and then your platoon sergeant, and then whatever you do throughout the day. You have no idea what's going on. And then they're like, okay, we're going to do a field exercise, and we need to move all this equipment. And all you really know is, I have to move this Humvee over there at 4 a.m. for some reason. And then go draw my weapon, and then go back to the motor pool and sit there. And they said we were going to leave at 6, but we're really leaving at 12.
That fucking sucks.
But that's how the enlisted see it, until they make like E6 or E7, depending on what they're doing in their career, or they just suck at their job and they shove them in battalion in one of the S shops. They really don't know a damn thing about what's going on until they have to be part of the first mission that they have to plan something in it.
Can I let you in a little secret?
Yeah.
You just described the mindset of a second lieutenant. Like, no shit.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
And it was funny though, because like I had a fantastic platoon sergeant, engineer platoon leader, and I didn't know shit. I really didn't. And so I went in. I mean, he was salty. I mean, he was a chain smoker. That was when I figured out what chain smoking meant. Chain smoking is when somebody's fucking smoke done, they get another cigarette out and they chain it to the last one, like light their cigarette off of their last fucking cigarette. That's a chain smoker. Yes. I didn't know what chain smoking was until I actually saw it, and I was like, oh, that's what fucking chain smoking is. I just thought it was like, smoking a lot, but it's fucking smoking a lot.
Chaining.
Yeah. And so he was like, Lieutenant, he goes, Lieutenant Voorhees, he goes, how long you been in the Army? And I was like, that long. And he goes, and he liked that too, because it was like, okay, this guy fucking gets it. He knows he hasn't been here very long.
Yeah.
We can run your way. Platoon, how do you want to run it? I was like, let's run it your way, Sergeant Carter. And he goes, okay. He goes, my way is this. He goes, my way is you sit and they wow. And I was like, good talk, Sergeant Carter. And that's just how we fucking like, and it was.
You're breaking up again.
Real, right.
That's all right. It did it during yeah, it's popping in and out.
Oh, it's weird. And up or keep going?
No, I think you're good now.
Okay. Well, yeah. So anyway, the funny thing was that he didn't know. Hey, look, I'm a really, really fast learner, but I can't know what I don't know.
Right.
And okay, here's what I want. Don't fucking say anything. That's what he told me. And I said, okay, it's students. What about this? He goes, you say, did you talk to your team leader? That's all you fucking say to him. I was like, oh, okay. And if he says yes, then you say, okay, talk to the which fucking is not talked to. So I did. So Haley would come over, Ford would come over and say, hey, sir, can I have some AER? Which for everybody in the leaf happens.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, hey, did you talk to your... He'd be like, I'd go over to Sergeant Carter and I'd be like, hey, Sergeant Carter, what the fuck is... And he would fucking stand up and like smack the desk and go, God damn it, Smith, get a fuck. And some smack and chew somebody's ass. And all of the troops thought that I was like saying smart shit to him and he was fucking engaging.
Yeah.
And me looked like a fucking celebrity, knew everything that was going on. And I was just fucking asking the dumbest fucking
just the dumbest questions behind the doors, like that nobody saw in the platoon office, and then you come out and you're like, hey guys, we're gonna do this.
And yeah, I just kept my mouth shut and they just fucking wondered. And so by the gave my first operations order, they were just looking at me like fucking writing everything down and shit. Like he had built me up in their mind that I was like, something fucking special, which was really fucking cool of a non-commissioned officer leader like that. Like, and that just taught me that like, hey, the one takeaway from that was you don't fucking know anything. Yeah. You don't know everything. But the good news is you don't have to, right?
No, as long as there's enough people. Yeah, somebody knows the answer. But I'll tell you a story about a brand new lieutenant. I was down in the engine room of one of our vessels training our brand new soldiers that we had just got. They just came out of AIT, so I'm licensing them up so that they can go out onto the cruise that they're going to go to and know what the hell they're doing. And this brand new butter bar comes hopping down the stairs into the engine room, and he's got a backpack on, and he looked just like the kid from Up. Looked just like him. So he's
big fat guy.
Yeah, he's down the stairs, and I'm explaining this system to my soldiers, and he goes, "Hey, Sergeant," and I stop mid-sentence and go, "What?" And he looks at me and goes, is Sergeant so-and-so here?" I go, "Is he a decky?" And he's like, "Yes." And I go, "Why the fuck would he be in the engine room?" And he's like, I go, "Bye." And then he runs off. And the soldiers are staring at me, and I go, "Say something. I dare you." Because he's going to go tell the commander. And commander's going to tell him to leave me alone. So he was actually, I was the platoon sergeant, and he was actually, they kind of toyed with the idea of giving me a lieutenant for my platoon. And I was like, "Not that one." And they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to give you a lieutenant. You can just keep your warrant officers." Because I had like 3 warrant officers, 1 permanent, and then we would rotate warrant officers in there to train them up as they came out of school. But I was like, "Yeah, don't give me a lieutenant, and don't give me a new one."
It's too bad, man. You could have been a mentor to that young lieutenant. You know what I mean? Made him better for the next.
Well, they sent him to Japan.
Oh, Japan would have been nice. I always wanted to go to a nice,
awesome,
cool place. I never fucking cool.
Yeah, I went to Yokohama. I was in Yokohama for a little bit in the front and back end of the big joint exercise we do every year with South Korea.
Mm.
And Japan's probably the coolest place you could ever go.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Went to Tokyo. Tokyo was awesome. It's great. Yeah. Loved Tokyo. Hated Korea. I was in Korea 2013.
Back in the 90s, I had a buddy that was at Camp Greaves, which is right on the fucking DMZ. He said that sucked.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, you can't do anything out there.
No, he's an infantryman.
Oh yeah, they no drinking, no nothing.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
You just sit there and stare at the people across the border staring at you.
Yeah, and they have more shootings than you think. Like there's we exchange rounds over there like more than they talk about.
Oh so yeah, it's still technically at war.
That's true. Man, the coolest thing I ever did. The coolest thing. I mean, they're like, "Hey, Fort Drum, 10th Mountain Division, fine." Yeah. And Fort Leonard was where the middle of the woods where you for your basic and advanced training and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the one thing that was cool was after command, they sent me to law school. Like every year they have like 15 people or whatever they select, and they send them to law school, and they bring them back in as JAGs. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Well, what, we set you up to go to Fort Lewis." And I was like, "Oh man, Fort Lewis." Cause like that was from Washington. So it's like, why do I want to go there? I was like, "Do you have anything like overseas? You got anything in Europe?" And they're like, "You want to go to Germany?" Like Germany. So they sent me for a summer. Man, it was awesome. And I tasted this awesome beer called Franziskaner.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you've heard of it. It's just a delicious wheat beer, and it's so good you could drink it cold. It tastes just as good warm, which is crazy, but it was amazing. And like when you pour it, the head on the glass is like fucking ice cream. Like,
holy shit.
So good. It's crazy. And so I loved it so much. And for a liter bottle, it was like 75 cents for these giant fucking bottles, like of a liter. And so I mailed, and I'm in law school, right? So it's like fucking party like all the time, right?
Yeah.
I'm no debt. I don't even have to pay for law school. It's the whole grade. And so I'm in Germany, and I like mail all my clothes home. and I loaded all of my duffel bags and all of my bags with this fucking beer. That's all I brought home on the plane was this fucking beer.
Yeah.
And I mean, probably like 180 liter bottles of it. I mean, it was just the case is perfect bags. And so, and I'm like pushing like fucking 300 pounds of beer through
an airport.
Port. And I get to customs and they're like, well, you a 6-pack. And I was like, no. I said, I can have a 6-pack and a bottle of wine duty free. I'm here to pay the taxes on this. And they're like, fuck, nobody does this.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how much do you want, bill? Like, fuck it, just go. And I just fucking, I was like pushing on. I had so much beer. I almost got through the whole.
Wow.
And Germany was fucking awesome. It's pretty cool if you can get those assignments, but most Afghanistan
or Fort Irwin.
Oh yeah, man, Fort Irwin, Jesus, cold. That's the coldest. Except that's the coldest I've ever been. Like in the box, I don't know how it gets that cold. April, fucking cold. Heater. So yeah, didn't mean to talk about the military.
Oh no, I could do that all day. When I was in El Paso, I was when I was stationed at Bliss, the brigade I was in, we did testing for new equipment, rapid testing, so it could go to Afghanistan. And so we figured it out. It was 19 months out in the field in White Sands, and let me tell you, that sucked. Because in the winter, it gets like 30 degrees out there or 15 degrees or sometimes colder. And you're just outside in a sleeping bag, laying next to your truck with your face peeking out. And you're just like, oh my God, I hate my life. Or you just completely cover up because your nose is going to fall off because it gets so cold.
It's fucking true. It gets colder as the sun comes up. But hey, did you ever see like any UFOs or things like
at White Sands?
Because isn't that where they show up?
Yes. So there is an area out there. It's really far north by Oro Grande, and I think it was a tertiary landing site for the space shuttle. So they call it Space Harbor. And there's so much crazy shit that goes on out there because you're so far away from everything. Any city or anything else, there's like no city lights. It's pitch black. And when the moon's not out and there's never any clouds because it's a desert. So you see like all the stars and everything, and you see shit moving around and you're just like, wow, that is not normal. And you know it's not the drones because you know what the drones sound like when they fly overhead. And it's not the F-22s because those are loud as hell. And so it's either a satellite streaking across or you'll see something and then it will like do a 90 and turn and fly off. And you're just like, yeah, I'm not telling anybody about that.
Yeah. Man, that's cool. I haven't seen it yet. I'm dying to, but I haven't missed it.
Haven't had the amazing experience of seeing a UFO.
No, but vicariously, as I look at some of the video that's posted, like about my crazy quantum echo hypothesis and all this stuff and time travel and how it works. When I look at a lot of those, those videos, like I'm going, dude, I know what's going on right there. Like I know, I see this, like, like little Tic Tacs zipping out of other ones. It's like, man, I'm telling you, that's how they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, it's happening. It's definitely happening.
It is, and it's since I've moved out here. I've been out
Where
here
do you live?
In Kansas.
Okay.
Weird, like you can go in my backyard, and I live in a small town. There's only like 6,000 people here. I can go in my backyard, look up, and see almost everything. because there's no street lights for like 3 blocks. So, and there's nothing out here anyway, so you can just go out and look up and see everything. It's awesome. But I've seen 3 since I have been out here.
3
UFOs.
UAP or UFOs.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yep.
that's awesome. Do you get any of it on your camera or anything on your phone?
No, but because it's always like I just sit there and look at them like, whoa, there's another one.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And, yeah, the last one that I saw was actually at my in-laws, and we were feeding the cows, and it was nighttime, and I had my flashlight, and I'm shining it in the faces of the cows as they stare at me. And she comes over, and she's like, "Hey, turn your flashlight off." And I was like, "Okay," I turn it off. She's like, "Look up." And it was just a great night for looking at stars. And I look up, and I see a star literally flash and become brighter and then disappear. Straight
awesome.
ahead of us, straight above us. And I was like, holy shit.
Man, that's awesome.
All you got to do is go out and look. They are out there.
Yeah, I believe it. And it's just there's going to be more and more. Well, if the quantum that or many of the UAP that we're seeing are just quantum echoes of future, then it's a certainty that we will see more and more and more and more, because we'll be catching up in time to the point where we discover quantum travel. If that's what's happening, then as we go, as time passes, we'll get closer and closer and closer to when we start quantum travel, which means we're going to go through a whole bunch of these echoes. So it's just going to get worse. And we actually probably need to start deciding how we're going to manage that travel, because you just can't have these fucking echoes zipping around everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of all the gravity and all that shit, we'll be like, wrecking stuff. We got to figure out how to manage that traffic, I think.
Yeah, I think that's gonna give like a huge issue, and I think that's part of why they kind of tie this UAP phenomenon into being like a threat towards aviation.
Yeah,
because they can't see them. They rarely pop up on radar, but pilots will be like, "Hey, something just blew past me at like 20 meters off of my, port wing, and what the hell is going on?" And
yeah, I mean, it should be no surprise that if the quantum echo hypothesis is true, it should be no surprise that a lot of the traffic happens in military training areas where it's already supposed to be, secure and like no fly zones and shit like that. And maybe that's a lot of the reason that, in areas or whatever where there's nothing there, that they're there too, because that might be us in the future saying, hey, we can't fly where, because I mean,
there's just too much. There's too much up there, so we can't fly up there. Or I don't know. I'm surprised that we haven't seen more with a lot of these SpaceX launches, because they filmed the whole launch is streamed live from the rocket's point of view and from the ground, and they have really great cameras, because those things are up like 7-8 miles away from the launch pad, and you can still kind of see them in their cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be. I think it's going to be interesting. I think the time is coming where, with the new Starship, when they start launching those on an operational standpoint, and
what's Starship? You have to catch me up.
That's the actual spacecraft for SpaceX. So it's an actual craft itself. It's going to fly out to the moon and come around, and of course, because it's SpaceX, it's going to land itself vertically. With the first flight is going to have 6 people on it, and it's a Japanese billionaire, and then like a disabled veteran and some other people. So it's going to be a very interesting thing.
Yeah, the edge, which decouples the Higgs field, and and I'm gonna think is then these rock with I don't know, huge waste of like resources, because it would be so much cheaper and easier to. I mean, the thing I'm building in my kitchen right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
You're breaking up again.
Sorry.
It's all right.
With see.
There you are.
Anything like what are the takeaways? What are the things trigger in your when they think about
You're breaking up. Yeah, you just broke up through that whole thing.
Man,
you're in and out. There you are.
Yeah.
You were clear for a second, and then you.
What about now?
That was yeah. I can see you moving. So there we go.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Is this better?
Yes.
Hey, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah. Well, man, I was just wondering, like, what's your vision for your podcast? Like, when people think about your podcast, what are the things you want them to take away, and what everybody expect to tune in?
Well, I think over as it goes on, it's going to be a lot of talking about paranormal stuff, a lot of talking about UFOs, and there's going to be some mix thrown in there talking about food, and because everybody who's seen my Twitter knows that I post the things that I cook every now and again. So you're gonna see some of that too. Some of this lifestyle change that we decided to take, to where this spring we're going to be growing our own vegetables. We're going to be all locally sourcing as much of the food that we eat as possible. And what you'll see on Twitter and in a few videos that I'll throw up, I'll make a new subject for my videos, and you're going to see some of these home projects, like stuff that we're building to make life easier for what we're trying to do, and the little projects that I have in my mind.
Man, that's awesome. Can I invite you to check my really, really early podcast episodes? One is called It's Insane. And so I'd really like to know, like, a couple cook, like,
yeah, I mean, send them to me, or send me the links and I'll check them out. Definitely tell you what I think.
Yeah, like,
hold on, you're breaking up again. I don't know why I keep moving my mic when I say you're breaking up.
I don't know.
I'm like, dude, you're breaking up. Here, let me bring my mic closer to your picture.
I'm not sure what the problem is, but am I any better now?
Yes, I think it's prime time. I think there is going to be a side channel, Cooking with Bottled Water.
That's a good title.
But there has to be one problem on the start of a brand new podcast. If everything worked smoothly, it would just wouldn't be right.
No,
I mean, just
you
look at all
ugly.
Yeah, just look at all the great things. When Pirates of the Caribbean first started in Disneyland, you know, the pirates broke down and everything. Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs got out, killed like almost all the people. I mean, you gotta have really a bumpy start.
You're not trying. Those people that like wait and just want it to be perfect. Just start up.
Yeah, you gotta take that step. If you don't take the step, you're gonna be, oh no, maybe I need to change this a little bit. Maybe I need to change that a little bit.
Because it's authenticity too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, no wants to on being like you. It doesn't make any sense at all to try to put out an image of you that you want. The thing, people don't want that. People want to know who and what you are, so they can make a decision about whether or not they want to say, "Oh, that." You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I plan for it to be as genuine as possible and not church it up or. I don't like manufactured.
Is
church it up. It's dare.
Yeah. I guess like I got a little churchy. Oh, you know, when you get shot at, you start making deals with God, and you start like, oh, I'm gonna go to church, and I'm gonna, you know. But I think it's in our DNA, like, and if it's in our DNA, if it's natural,
it's a very good thing when it's natural, because people can tell if somebody is being genuine or if they are just kind of going on a formula that has, I guess, been is there really a formula for podcasts? Like, is there really like Joe Rogan talks to people for 3.5 hours, and that's he gets what 11 million listeners every time on every single one. And then you can have somebody who has an hour podcast and they have hundreds of thousands or millions of listeners. So I don't think there's a set thing that has to be done for a podcast to be good. You just have to give people something that they want to listen to. And that's what I want to do is, one, it's working on my talking to a computer screen, sense of self, and modifying my office to be a podcast station. And eventually I'll actually build a area, probably in the garage or in the storm shelter, which is actually under my garage. But I'll build.
You have a storm shelter? Oh, dude.
Yeah, we have tornadoes.
You're ready for the zombies, though, dude.
I am. That's where my reloading stuff is going to go. But
you know what freaks me out is this like new, and I don't know if you want, just shut me up if you don't want to talk about it, but this new drug from Merck, this molnupiravir or whatever it is. Do you know how?
The COVID one? Yeah,
it's a new COVID pill. Do you know how it works? Somebody thought this was a good idea. The way it works is it mutates the shit out of the virus on purpose. So
good.
That it mutating is so that in your body it mutates so much that it just totally scrambles the DNA of the virus. But the trouble is there was somebody who was interviewed, or who was like on record with except it can fucking your.
There's a movie about this, and it's called I Am Legend, where they develop a drug to save the world. I think they were curing cancer in that movie, and then everybody became vampire creatures.
Yeah. Think about if with AIDS catches it, taking Provir or whatever it is. Like, who's to say that COVID just doesn't baby with AIDS and now it's aerosol fucking AIDS or aerosol herpes? Aerosol herpes, dude.
That'd be horrible.
Yeah.
That would be horrible. Up. Yeah.
When people start dying, aerosol Ebola. I mean,
that would
just
be,
to me, retarded. I can't believe that somebody didn't tell that guy. There was a reporter somewhere. He said, "Hey, this pill that fucking mutates the virus." Somebody should have told that guy to go shut the fuck up.
Yeah, go sit in the corner and color with crayons.
I mean, sorry, trying not to derail you.
No, you're good. I think so. I was hoping for an hour today, and we got it because we have to go feed cows.
Hey, sorry, my audio cut out.
Oh, no problem. Like I said, it's expected on the first show.
Yeah, I'm glad I could fuck up your first podcast. Just
well, thanks for helping me do that because I was afraid I would have to do it on my own.
Yeah. Man, thanks for sharing the space.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Man, all that shooting. I'm worried about you, dude. I'm worried about all that drinking and shooting you do. So I just want to say that. I care about you.
That drinking was very compacted, and then the guns went away.
Okay, well, I'm just saying. I don't know if anybody else has the balls to tell you, but I get worried about you when I see you drinking and shooting, dude. Because
I'm not sitting there drinking all day and shooting all day. It was just for those videos.
Okay, all right, man.
All right, ammo's expensive. I can't shoot guns all day.
Yeah. All right, man. Maybe someday I'll bring my Taver over and we can shoot some stuff together.
That sounds like an awesome idea.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thanks. Well, that's a first episode. Interesting. We'll see where this goes. Prime time. Thank you guys, Josh and Artemis, for coming on. Thanks everybody for coming on and viewing. Akashi, thank you. And I will see you guys next time.